Hello, Bompas Parr.
Bompas Parr is an experience design agency, which is a bit of a mouthful, but that is really what we do. Sam and I initially started the company as a jelly company, making fine English jellies. So at that point we were Jellymongers. But just over the years we've gone through lots of different things, all sorts of different work. And ultimately we concluded that we design experiences, whether it's on a very small scale, like designing a cocktail, or on a very large scale, like designing a museum. I think we've probably traditionally been seen as a bit of an outsider. And we don't necessarily centre ourselves as being a marketing agency, and our output is certainly much more varied than most agencies.
You know, people often feel very guilty about what it is they do because they might not be doing exactly what they want to do. You know, so for example, you spend your university working to be a creative, and then you go and work as a marketeer or in, you know, on a brand as well, and you feel that you're kind of thwarted in terms of your creativity. Now, in terms of like real raw creativity, quite often the work that we do on brands is able to be much more creative, you know, than often the cultural sector. In the cultural sector, certainly if you're working with museums, quite often they're looking for you to do something that's in your métier, it's familiar to their audiences, and it fits within their curatorial remit. Now that's vastly different from marketeers who like your work. You obviously can't do something you've done before. They want you to do something totally new that's never happened before, because otherwise it's just not going to get any cut through. You know, what's more, you're also able to work with bigger budgets, which means that you can achieve things that would just be utterly impossible if you're working in a purely cultural remit.
My favourite project is the Truvia Voyage of Discovery. It was a nightmare, of course. Most of the time was working out how to put a boating lake on the roof of Selfridges. So in terms of engineering, it was a huge challenge. The roof couldn't take the weight. We had to do intrusive investigations into the floor below in the furniture department in the dead of night, getting jackhammers out and cracking away. But what's so fascinating and shows the way that Sam and I work really well together is that whilst I was doing all of that, Sam knew that when people came to the event, they wouldn't care about any of that because they wouldn't be able to see it. They wouldn't see all the staging and the engineering that had gone into it. All they'd see is the surface of the water, and that's how we ended up working with Faye Toogood to create this beautiful set. Sam had this idea of dyeing the water green. We created this great narrative involving crystals and boating through waterfalls and discovering secret gardens, worked with amazing costume designers. So ultimately it was really spectacular, but it was working on lots of different levels.
I like to get everyone in the studio to try and work on innovation and ideas all the time, so that there's just enormous books full of ideas that are hot and ready to go when you get a turnaround. And you know, quite often, because we're doing events, the event is happening in a week, in 3 weeks. So we don't have that luxury of you know, very deep forward planning, and we're still judged on that work against everything else. One of our ambitions this year is to open a new studio, probably in America somewhere, and we'll see how that manifests.
I think we grew up on naivety, and if we weren't naive, we wouldn't have done any of the events, because when you really start to understand the implications of them, there's just too much risk involved. But we just had a passion and interest for getting things done, and particularly the way that my brain works is I like solving problems, and fortunately Sam's very good at creating them. So it was always a challenge, and as we learned how to do one thing, then suddenly that thing became not interesting anymore, and we had to find something harder to do.
You know, I hate it when I look online and I see someone's like realised a project that's really, really good, because you're like, damn, I wish I'd come up with that idea. But it also you know, makes you spend that last 5-10 minutes in the office when you're like, you know, you could be going out, doing something else, seeing your friends, going to the park. just making that last connection, writing that last concept up, sending it out, trying to galvanize it, because it's so rewarding to see this work take flight in the world.